The Science of Meditation. Chapter 1. Awake Sleep. Meditation is an interesting topic and, at the same time, it is also mysterious. That is because human beings have been meditating for thousands of years. And during those thousands of years, countless people and organizations gave meditation many different definitions, explanations, and meanings. But most of those observations and understandings were from philosophical or religious views, which added mysteries, more or less, here and there. Now let's try to look at meditation from a scientific view to discover what it is really about. What is its biological nature? That is a fundamental question because only after we answer it can we easily answer other questions about meditation. For example, why are there so many different meditation techniques? Do they have anything in common? Which meditation technique is the best? What is the benefit of meditation? And why is that? Let's begin with the first question: what is meditation really about? Most people have two states in their daily life, either awake or asleep. In fact, there is a third state between the two, which is to keep the mind awake while letting the body fall asleep. That is exactly what meditation achieves. That is the biological nature of meditation. In other words, meditation is sleep. It is awake sleep. It is sleeping with consciousness. With that in mind, it is not difficult to understand that all those fantastic sensations that arise during meditation are just due to the changes in the body after it falls asleep. Although those physical changes in the body occur every night, you never notice them because you lose consciousness during sleep, and thus miss one wonderful moment after another. Now let's try to prove that special relationship between sleep and meditation. We know that your heart and respiration rates will drop significantly during sleep. Although those phenomena are exactly what happens during meditation as well, it is not good enough to prove that meditation is identical to sleep. So, let's look at what else happens to the body after you fall asleep. First, your body activates a protective mechanism that paralyzes the skeletal muscles of the joints, stopping the muscles of the limbs from functioning. That prevents you from harming yourself and others while you are dreaming. And that is why you always feel weak in your dreams and can't run fast when chased by enemies. In addition, some people suffer from a condition called sleep paralysis, which occurs when the body is still in an off state after the mind wakes up. In some cultures, that condition is known as the ghost pushes you down. From that, you can see that, in normal situations, both your mind and body fall asleep and wake up at the same time. In some special situations, however, they can get out of sync. That is considered a malfunction when you cannot quickly get out of that out-of-sync state and back into your synchronized one. On the other hand, with some practice, you can train yourself not only to easily get into the out-of-sync state, but also to get back into the synchronized state at any time you wish. That is called meditation. In fact, this desynchronization between the mind and the body not only includes the state whereby the body falls asleep while the mind stays awake, but also the state whereby the body is awake while the mind remains asleep. For example, the opposite of sleep paralysis is sleepwalking, which occurs when the body wakes up while the mind is still asleep. If we use a coordinate system on a two-dimensional plane to illustrate the distribution of different states of the mind and the body, we could represent the state of the body on the x-axis, with the arrow pointing from asleep to awake. The y-axis would represent the state of the mind, also with the arrow pointing from asleep to awake. In this two-dimensional coordinate system, the different quadrants can clearly show various combinations of states. The top right area, quadrant 1, represents both the body and the mind being awake, which corresponds to the normal waking state. The top left area, quadrant 2, represents the body being asleep, while the mind is awake, which corresponds to the state of sleep paralysis or meditation. The bottom left area, quadrant 3, represents both the body and the mind being asleep, which corresponds to normal sleep. The bottom right area, quadrant 4, represents the body being awake while the mind is in a hazy state, which corresponds to sleepwalking. From this diagram, we can also see that while both sleep paralysis and meditation fall into quadrant 2, sleep paralysis typically occurs when individuals unexpectedly move from quadrant 3 to quadrant 2 without being aware of it and then become trapped there, which is considered a malfunction. On the other hand, meditation occurs when individuals intentionally transition from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2 through training. Moreover, in meditation, one can return from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1 at will. So, what kind of training enables people to move freely between quadrants 1 and 2? After months of practicing meditation, you may gradually feel your limbs becoming heavier and stiffer, as if paralyzed. That indicates that you have succeeded in keeping your mind awake, while letting your body fall asleep. However, many people do not know how they have done that, even when they are able to do so. If you ever used a smartwatch to monitor your sleep, the process will be easy to understand. Smartwatches can tell when you fall asleep and when you wake up. That is because they are equipped with a motion sensor that detects if there is any wrist movement. If they do not detect any wrist movement for a certain amount of time, it is safe to assume you are sleeping. Similarly, your body has built-in motion sensors. When you meditate, you keep your body still. If you practice long enough, you will eventually trick your body into falling asleep when no muscle movement is detected by its motion sensors. Consequently, the protection mechanism mentioned earlier will be triggered, and the paralysis commands will be sent to the skeletal muscles even when your mind is still awake. Thus, you can see clearly why keeping the body still is the first key element in meditation practice. That is also why the lotus sitting position is better than the half lotus position, and the half lotus position is better than the easy pose. The lotus is the most stable, and the easy pose is the least stable. However, individuals who can only sit in the easy pose can insert 2 small sponge blocks between their feet and their legs to significantly improve the stability of their legs as well as their bodies. As sleep deepens, all the muscles in the body become more and more relaxed, until they finally reach a state of complete relaxation. However, the bad news is that you lose consciousness in your sleep and cannot experience what full-body relaxation really feels like. Fortunately, an American physician, Dr. Edmund Jacobson, has developed a method, which he calls progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR, that allows you to experience muscle relaxation even when you are awake. For example, hold your fists tightly for 10 seconds, and then release them quickly. You should feel a numb, vibrating sensation in your hands. That is the sensation of hand muscle relaxation. Dr. Jacobson has invented a series of tensing and relaxing muscles that makes people experience muscle relaxation in every part of the body, not only the hands. Although the doctor's method is awesome, it only allows us to experience the relaxation of 1 or 2 muscle groups at a time. If you want to experience full-body relaxation, you need to use meditation. Also, by using Dr. Jacobson's method, you can only experience muscle relaxation for a very short period, usually less than 30 seconds. But meditation can let us experience muscle relaxation for a much longer time. In fact, with enough practice, you may eventually be able to stay in that relaxed state as long as you like. Another disadvantage of Dr. Jacobson's method is that it can only let you experience the relaxation of skeletal muscles. But besides skeletal muscles, human beings also have smooth muscles and heart muscles. If you want to spontaneously experience the changes of all those muscles during sleep, the only way you can accomplish that is through meditation. After more and more meditation practice, you may occasionally experience numbness and vibration in your body here and there, just like a current flowing through you. That indicates the relaxation of some of your muscles. If you continue practicing, one day you will feel the amazing full-body vibration from head to toe. That indicates that you have achieved full-body relaxation with all the muscles relaxed completely. That feeling is good, but even better is the fact that, while your body is relaxing, your mind is also relaxing, and thus is temporarily freed from all kinds of anxiety, big and small. In Dr. Jacobson's own words, an anxious mind cannot exist in a relaxed body. As a matter of fact, that is why he invented the PMR method in the first place. Relieving anxiety by relaxing the body sounds interesting and works really well, but scientists don't stop there. Some valid questions they ask include, do body tension and mental anxiety occur at the same time? And if not, does one cause the other? Recent research has shown that anxiety is not directly generated in the brain, it is actually caused by physical stress in your body. In other words, when some event occurs, your body reacts to it first, and your emotions follow, caused by the physical changes in your body. For example, to resolve anxiety, many people use talk therapy and other mainstream methods that rely on rational thinking. However, Dr. Elizabeth A. Stanley, the author of Widen the Window, disagrees. She believes that people's anxiety comes from the body, not the brain. Those practices don't work until you get your body back to normal. In her work, Dr. Stanley makes a distinction between the thinking brain and the survival brain. The former, our neocortex, is responsible for decision-making, reasoning, ethics, conscious memory, and learning. The latter, which includes the limbic system, brain stem, and cerebellum, handles our emotions, implicit memory, stress arousal, and basic survival. One of the survival brain's most important functions, according to Dr. Stanley, is neuroception, an unconscious process of rapidly scanning one's internal and external environment for safety and danger. When you detect danger, your survival brain sends an instantaneous stress arousal message to your body by turning on the sympathetic nervous system. That results in the release of specific hormones that lead to certain physical sensations related to your heart, lungs, and digestive organs. Whatever is happening in the survival brain has these tremendous ripple effects through your body. In fact, as early as 2000 years ago in India, people recognized that phenomenon and utilized it to attain wisdom by practicing meditation. Specifically, in meditation, you observe the physical sensations of your body with equanimity. In other words, you treat all sensations equally, without judging whether they are good or bad, hot or cold, painful or painless, and so on. Through that practice, your mind will always remain in a state of calm and harmony, and eventually, you may attain liberation from all misery. Obviously, the wisdom here is neither intelligence nor knowledge. Modern people have much higher IQs and much more knowledge than our ancestors, but our anxiety and misery have probably not decreased one bit. In fact, they may have increased significantly due to the greater complexity of modern human society. Scientists and physicians have found many ways to address that issue, but the simplest and most natural way is just to sit still and let your body fall asleep while keeping your mind awake. That will not only relax your body but, more importantly, relax your mind at the same time. May each of us have the wisdom of the ancient sages, cultivate ourselves in awake sleep, be free from anxiety and misery, and live peacefully and happily forever.